Welcome, and thank you for being here. I'm Karen Malcolm. I am the project manager at the Mental Health Association of Rhode Island. I do a lot of work on the Rhode Island Parity Initiative. But today I'm excited because we've got with us Sarah Cote, who is the initiative director for OneCranston, which is the City of Cranston's local health equity zone entity, and it's housed at Comprehensive Community Action Program. Sarah is also a licensed clinical social worker, and so she's bringing a really holistic view to the work that her health equity zone is doing in the city of Cranston, and can inform us a little bit about how the HESs operate statewide. So I'm excited to have you with us today, Sarah. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, welcome. Hoping that you can give us a little bit of background about how One Cranston came into being.
Absolutely. So our health equity zone is one of 15 in Rhode Island, funded by the Department of Health. And so each one's on a little bit of a different timeline. Ours in particular is part of what's called the Cohort 2 HESs. So we came to being in around 2019 or so as a HES, originally called the Cranston Health Equity Zone. And we start as every HES does with a needs assessment process, engaging the local community, so on and so forth. Fast forwarding a little bit in 2021, a bit before I started here, or I think around 2021, we merged with OneCranston, which is another initiative that was within CCAP at the time. There was a lot of commonalities, common goals. So it made a lot of sense at the time to merge the two together, both being under the umbrella of CCAP. So since that time, we've operated as the OneCranston Health Equity Zone. We are going into our 5th year as a HES, starting in July, which we're really excited about. We've done a lot of great stuff, and I can share a little bit about the HES in general, if that's helpful, just sort of what it is, how it works, or.
Yeah, I'm really interested, and I think that how the HESs are structured, both One Cranston um, and some of the other city state HESs. The structure is really interesting because I think it strives and gives preference to being community led. So I'd love to hear more about how you're set up.
Sure. So I think to do the structure justice, it helps to sort of talk about the HES mission as a whole, first and foremost. So the idea is to address the root cause of health disparities within each community. And of course, that looks a little bit different based on which community you're in. So the structure of each HES is going to look a little bit different, and the initiatives that they're working on are going to look a little bit different. But the common goal is really to understand the health disparities in the area and then, create actionable steps to do that. But it's also very resident driven. So the idea is that residents are at the center of all the work that we do. Residents know their communities best, and how can we create spaces and containers and opportunities for residents to be able to share their voice. And we center that in everything that we do. So thinking about our structure and the way that we're set up, and many other HESs too, just looks a little bit different across all of us, is that, to have that resident driven lens, we do quite a few different things. But the first and foremost, that we have a series of different work groups that are all resident majority. So our HES in particular has 5 primary work groups that are all centered on initiatives that came out of our first needs assessment that we did when we first kicked things off. And those are centered on topics like physical health and nutrition, and trauma and community connection, youth opportunity, built environment. So looking at housing, transportation, green spaces, and things like that. Within each of those groups, as I mentioned, it's a resident majority. So we have at least 51% of our members that are on those groups are Cranston residents that are, joining us as volunteers every month to share their voices and their perspectives on each of those different areas and things that we can do as a group to move certain things forward. We also work very closely with a lot of different partners and organizations in the area that have a handle in Cranston. We have a lot of really wonderful local organizations and things that we work with, including, CCAP as our backbone agency. That's what that's called. Each has a backbone agency that helps to support all of the work that they're doing and keep moving things forward. We are employees of CCAP, in our particular case, but each has a different backbone agency. So each group has a mix of residents, but also stakeholders. and meeting on a regular basis. We also have what's called a local implementation team, which is sort of our steering committee.
Yeah.
So we have chairs for each of our work groups. Many of those chairs are also on our local implementation team that meets on a regular basis to really discuss movement of the HES initiative as a whole forward for ours in particular. And the same sort of thing, resident majority, but also a mix of residents and stakeholders. So it's something we really try to carry through all of our work and everything that we do, and really keep that centered in, everything that we do.
Yeah. I think that's that whole kind of structure is exciting to me. And I think we've seen the payoff of that already in, in the work that not just OneCranston, but the other HESs have been able to do. Like look at the pandemic and the contribution of the local HESs to their communities underneath the emergency health order and all of the issues that needed quick response. One of the reasons we were able, I think, to respond so effectively was because of the HES network being in place statewide. So
Absolutely.
that's just so exciting. I'd love to see, well, first of all, I think it's important. You talked about your initial needs assessment and how that informed the 5 different initiative areas for OneCranston that have their own groups, 51% of community members on those work groups. Can you tell us a little bit about that needs assessment, how you go about doing it? Because I know you're involved in one right now. You're redoing your needs assessment.
We are, yeah. So yeah, every HES starts off with a needs assessment process. As each one develops, with it being such a resident-driven initiative, the goal is to have as much resident input as possible, especially as you're getting started. But HESs do a lot of what's called continuous needs assessment as well, where we're always trying to continue to stay on top of receiving as much input from the community as possible to ensure that the way I think of it is like making sure that your compass is pointed straight all the time, with what you're doing, you're really staying on top of strengths and needs as they shift. So that's the goal with the first one, is to really gather as much input as humanly possible. HESs do a lot of really sort of fun things too, as it relates to needs assessments in terms of engaging the community. Ours does something that's called a speak out, which is events in person that have interactive activities that also gauge needs and strengths as well through those activities. So we did 3 this time, right? I'll get to our new needs assessment in a second, but we did 1 last time too, so we could be able to kind of just, get beyond the survey further and get some more information in person and connect with the community in that way. We do things like poster boards with stickers, to have people kind of place, what their responses are in different places. So we really try to be broad and widespread in the way that we approach needs assessments and take that information in. So that's our first one. That first one ended basically right as COVID began. Remember, we started in 2019, so it had wrapped in March of 2020. So this year we decided that we thought it would be really great to do it again. So we're currently in the middle of our second citywide needs assessment. And the goal, as I mentioned before, is to really make sure that our compass is still pointing straight, acknowledging how much has changed as a result of COVID over the past few years. And we know so much has already, of course. So we really wanted to take this opportunity to get as much information as we can to make sure that, the initiatives and things that we're working on are still most pressing, are the things that we want to maintain, are there certain things people are looking for that, we could be incorporated, maybe we aren't thinking about just yet, things like that. So we have the survey live through the end of April. Yeah, we're really trying to gather as much feedback as possible from members of the city. And
If somebody is watching this and they're a Cranston resident, where do they go to participate in that needs assessment?
So it's all over our social media. That's a good way so they can find us on Facebook at OneCranston Health Equity Zone. We're also on Instagram, OneCranston HES. I believe we have it on our website as well, onecranstonhes.org. So all those different places. If you read the Cranston Herald, there's stuff in there about it too. If your doctor's office or so on, probably a flyer in there too. We have our coffee shops, we have flyers up all over the place. So yeah.
Great, thanks. So I'm interested to hear on the ground, here's activities and events and opportunities that are open. You guys have this brand new drop-in center. You're doing parenting class. I'd love to hear a little bit of I know too long a list to give us all, but some highlights of the
Yeah.
work that's happening on the ground and in the field via OneCranston.
Sure, absolutely. So first and foremost, the needs assessment, as I mentioned before, the needs assessment will determine a lot of our work going forward, because we really want to use that to make informed decisions around the directions of our work going forward. But one big thing, as you just alluded to, we have what's called the Huddle Center. It's a family support center in Cranston that we just opened this past summer, thanks to funding from the Rhode Island Foundation. And what that is, as it's a drop-in center. We're open 6 days a week, 2 nights until 7, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Saturdays as well. And it's meant to be a space where families can just come in and get access to whatever it is that they may need. The goal overall is to be working with families to impact child and adolescent behavioral health.
Yeah.
To support families and whatever it is they need to, kind of support their family system, engage with the different entities that they're working with, support in any way that we can. We have a great team over there that's part of our HES. And yeah, we do a little bit of everything. We do fun, engaging family events. We've got several every month. We've got a whole week of stuff planned for April break in a couple of weeks, with activities every day. We do a Dungeons and Dragons initiative, which is actually shown to improve literacy scores and social connection and things like that. So we do a lot of fun stuff in that way. We also do workshops on different topics. We're trained in a couple of evidence-based models called family checkup and everyday parenting that families can engage in with us. And that's sort of a bird's eye view look at the family, and then looking at how we can kind of work together, to support and, I think also very much acknowledging strengths and all of the great things that families are already doing. That's a little bit about it. There's so much more I could share.
Yeah.
But we really pride ourselves in doing a range of things. And through that lens too, we have something we call the Family Forum, which is an opportunity for families to come in every month and also just have a dialogue with us about a certain topic, where we share some information and also get some feedback as well to create sort of a space. It's sort of a mashup of a community conversation and an advisory council that we've recently been working on. So we do quite a few different things. Yeah, so that's been really great. The other one I think that would be great to mention and sort of speaks to the structure and flow overall as a HES too is our farmers market. So we have an annual farmers market that we do at the Bain track in Cranston, so off of Gansett Ave by Bain Middle School. And this is going into its 3rd year, so something we've been doing for a bit of time now. This is something that was born out of our physical health and nutrition work group, out of responses we got from the needs assessment. So you can see how those pieces sort of connect together. But we were learning that there were a lot of local families in Cranston saying they may not have had a lot of access to foods important to their culture, foods that are healthy, foods that are affordable. So we came up with the idea of a farmers market that was free. So we pay farmers to bring produce and then we distribute it for free to Cranston residents. So it's fresh produce straight from a farm. It is free. And, we get a wide range of foods that may not be available in the local market to speak to any of the local residents and their cultures and, increasing access for that. So we're going into our 3rd year with that starting in June, which we're very excited about.
That's exciting. And is it once a week, once a month?
Once a week. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So we're really fortunate. We got a LASA grant this year to be able to fund it. So we're going to be running it for about 16 weeks, starting June 22nd, and it's going to be going into the 1st week of October, I believe. And it'll be every week, Thursdays, 5 to 6:30. You just have to be a Cranston resident. We have a small registration process. One thing we're actually expanding this year is we're hoping to have some farmers also selling produce with God willing, SNAP and WIC, offering, being able to offer SNAP and WIC as well for that component. So maintaining the free, but also expanding beyond that too. We also always have a bunch of organizations tabling, different things happen. We have cooking demonstrations going on. Sometimes we do dance classes and movement classes during it too. So it's a great sort of community.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to have to, I live in Cranston, so I'm going to definitely
come. Absolutely. Yeah.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
And I just love that it's, the relying on community. It takes a village, right? So having the opportunity for quality programming built off of what the community itself has identified as its
Yep.
need is just exciting. And so I like that picture of how that the
Yeah.
farmers market flowed.
Yeah.
Out of
Yes.
So if people want to get engaged, if they're Cranston residents, and not just with OneCranston, but every single Rhode Islander, I think at this point is now within a HES zone, a health equity zone
Yeah.
area. How do people get involved with their local HES?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, probably most communities probably are covered by a HES. I know that there are still some areas that aren't, but I would say with 15 HESs at this point that, quite a vast majority of the state probably is, which is really, really great and just speaks to the strength of the initiative. But yeah, so this is one of those things too, where I think it probably looks a little bit different for every HES just based on what their individual structure is and how they've sort of built out their particular flow. But I can certainly speak to us, and I'm sure it expands to others as well. But we have our work groups that I mentioned before. Each of those 5, we're always happy to chat with new folks that might be interested in getting more involved with us, whether that be as a resident or as a local stakeholder that is perhaps working with families in Cranston, or is engaged in Cranston, is a small business in Cranston. We're always, we consider ourselves a table that just keeps growing, a very long table that we're always just happy to invite new people to.
No limit on
No
participation.
limit. No. Yeah, absolutely. So we're always happy to talk to new people, talk about what might be possible. The work groups is one option. A variety of different things. We have youth advisory council. So if there is youth around in Cranston and they want to engage with us on a quarterly basis, we have that going too. So we're always happy to talk with youth too. Absolutely. Yeah, there's just always a lot of different stuff going on that we're always happy to talk about. We love talking to new partners about different things we can work on together in Cranston, from that side as well, initiative wise. So yeah, there's a lot.
And I think in the Mental Health Association's April newsletter will be a list of all of 15 of the HESs with links so that if people want to reach out to their local HES or find their local HES's webpage, but people can also go to the Rhode Island Department of Health webpage and click through under the Health Equity Zone initiative and find a list that outlines all of the different HESs. And based on where you live, click on your own local HES to find out more.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to do that. Well, I appreciate this. I'm happy to speak with you, both because I'm a Cranston resident, but also because the HES model, I think, is exciting and has proven itself here in Rhode Island. Best to you. And I look forward to visiting the farmers market.
Yes.
To engaging more with my own local HES and with you, Sarah. And hopefully the Mental Health Association and OneCranston will be working together in the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm always happy to answer questions. If anyone wants to reach out, I'm always happy to chat with whoever might be interested.
Great. Thanks so much, Sarah.